In the previous lesson, we added a date time field to our custom event content type. The date time field is displayed using one of the formats available to us out of the box, which is what you're seeing right here highlighted under event date. In this lesson, we're going to look at changing how this date and time display. A reason we might want to do this, for example, is that we aren't confident that our user base will be comfortable with a 24-hour clock. This particular date time display shows the time using the 24-hour clock. Another reason we might want to do this could be that the design of our site asks for date and time to look very specific, so we might want to make that happen in our date time format. In this case, however, the only change we really need to make is changing that 24-hour clock to the 12-hour clock. Our first step is to go to the content type itself and manage the display settings for this field. So we're going to head over there right now. I'm going to go under Event, Manage Display. I'm going to scroll down and find the Event Date display line here. I'm going to click on the Settings option here, where I'll be able to choose from a list of date formats. At this time, all of the date formats available are ones that were created by the Drupal install itself, with the exception of one, Time Only, which we created early on in configuring our Drupal site. All of the times that are listed here, each option available, happens to be from the 24-hour clock. Since we know that we want to use the 12-hour clock, we now know that we need to create a new date format in order to have that available to us in this list. So now we're going to set new date formats in our configuration. So under Configuration, Regional Settings, Date and Time Formats. I'm going to add a new format, and the name of this format is going to be Date and Time with 12-hour clock. It's a very long machine name here over on the right, probably a lot longer than we need it to be, but I want to be very specific as to what this display is so that I know when I'm looking at the list what I'm choosing. The format string itself is going to be PHP based. If you don't know what the actual PHP is that you need to use in order to have the date show the way that you want it to, you can look at the PHP manual, which is linked right here. I'm going to open this in a new tab so that we can look at this really quickly. This is very helpful. If I scroll down here, it'll actually tell me what all of the formats are for what I need. Heading back over to our field here, the format string that I'm going to add is going to be FJ for full month and then day. Notice that the field is updating every time I add a character, including a space. And this is why this is taking so long. It's doing this so that on the right, it can give me a preview of what this is going to look like so that I know that the date and time display is looking exactly the way that I want it to. So I'm going to use the G for the 12-hour clock. And then because this is the 12-hour clock, I also want to make sure to use the A for AM PM so that the user knows whether or not the time is 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. I also want to point out here that because we have multilingual settings enabled on this site, we can actually choose the language for which this format is available. This means that we can create custom formats for different languages, which is really helpful for an international audience because different languages actually do display dates differently. I'm going to go ahead and save this, clicking Add Format. And now if I head back to my content type, Event, Manage Display, scrolling down to the event date row here, clicking on the settings, I can choose date and time with 24-hour clock. I'll go ahead and update this and then save it. Going back to the event node that we have here, I'll reload this, scroll down, and you'll see that the event date has changed in the way that it displays.